Good afternoon and welcome to the October 30th Clearwater City Council work session. Call the meeting to order, and we'll start with item number 2.1 in Economic Development and Housing, please.
Approve Second Amendment to sublease agreement providing to Amplify Clearwater as a subleasee an amount not to exceed $250,000 for interior improvements.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Denise Sanderson.
Good afternoon.
Housing. The item is for the approval of the Second Amendment to the sublease, as Ms. Call stated. This provides an amount not to exceed $250,000 for interior improvements to the first floor of the facility located at 3204 Gulf Bay Boulevard. As stated in the agenda memo, the facility is located in a high-traffic area in the easternmost edge of the city and will serve as the only visitor center on the mainland. It is also designated as a trailhead and is the site at which a future pedestrian bridge will be located, and that, of course, will go over Gulf Bay connecting to the Courtney Campbell Causeway Trail. Local patronage of Clearwater businesses will be encouraged from the facility, supporting local jobs and economic development. And history tells us that visitors and businesses, that visitors first come to this city and eventually, as we know, become businesses and residents of the city. So we anticipate no less as Amplify engages those visitors stopping by. All furniture, equipment, displays, and operating expenses will be the responsibility of Amplify Clearwater, and that is not included in this funding request, nor do we expect it to come forward in the future. The facility has not benefited from aesthetic or other improvements in many years. I took a tour of that facility in January of this year, and I can tell you that it looks like it's circa 1970s at best. So very narrow hallways, no ADA accessibility to the facility from the exterior or into the bathrooms, and many of these things will be addressed with the improvements that are being proposed. This does support two key strategic directives, 2.3, which is promoting Clearwater as a premier destination for entertainment, cultural experiences, tourism, and national sporting events, and 4.4, which is development of accessible and active transportation networks that enhance pedestrian safety and reduce citywide greenhouse gas emissions. Be happy to take it. I should mention this funding request is a request for a first quarter budget amendment of reserve, general fund reserve, and I'm happy to take any requests or any questions.
Questions, comments on this item? One? Yes.
Thank you. So I do have a number of questions. So I was wondering why we have a budget amendment right now for this expense when we just, approved the budget like 4 weeks ago.
Sure.
Why wasn't this put in earlier?
So the initial request came to us in a letter dated June 15th, 2023. The budget was in draft form at that time, and we were directed by the city attorney to explore with the state amendments to the lease that would allow us to fund interior improvements. We got that response from the state in September, and this is the first opportunity we've had to bring it forward.
So we asked for amendments from the state so that we could pay for improvements.
We asked if there were prohibitions in the lease agreement with the state to amend it, whereby we would be funding interior improvements.
Okay. Prohibitions from the state to amend the agreement.
They expressed none.
And I would think probably not, because it's like, hey, can I pay to improve your building?
Sure, it's protecting their asset.
So my question is, why isn't Amplify why isn't the state of Florida, the Bureau of Public Land Administration, paying to improve the building that they own?
That would be a question of the state, and one I can't answer, to be honest.
Okay. To me, I feel like the building owner should be paying to improve the building that they own.
My understanding from the lease agreement that we have with the state is that all expenses associated with maintenance, operation, and improvement are the responsibility of the lessee, which is us, and as sub-lessee, Amplify, and that's why we posed the question of the state.
Right, but sublessee, I think, isn't the original lease that we have with Amplify, is that they're responsible for all improvements and operating expenses to the building.
That is correct. That's what the original lease stated.
And that was in 2017 or 19?
2019.
19, okay. And that was for a 10-year lease to operate a visitor center on the first floor of that building?
Correct.
What's on the second floor of the building?
It's known as Florida Senior Games. It's got a legal name of different, but yes. Florida Senior Games.
Is it activated? Are people up there on the second floor doing anything?
My understanding is that when COVID hit, they went remote, and though they still have a sublease for that space, they're not often operating out of it, but that could have changed since my last check.
Okay. And do we know if Amplify has asked the owner of the building to make improvements first before they're asking us for $250,000?
Amplify is the sublessee to the city, so
Right.
they would ask us first, I would imagine, before we would ask the state.
Okay. Do you know if Amplify has asked TDC for funding?
Amplify has spoken with Visit St. Pete Clearwater. My understanding from them and my understanding of VSPC is they view themselves as largely a marketing firm. And so their funding, they have spoken with VSPC about TDC funding for things like murals, displays, and other marketing types of expenses, and that's their interest.
Well, to me, it seems like it's a perfect fit for tourism development funds. It's a visitor center that's catering to tourism, right?
Again, that would be a question certainly of Amanda Payne, President and CEO, but my understanding is that VSPC's funding of organizations like Amplify Clearwater is for marketing-related activities. So capital improvements would not fit within that realm. However, displays, murals, and other kinds of perhaps signage or other things would align with those goals.
Okay. But, I mean, the fact is, Amplify signed an agreement with us that they were responsible for any improvements, right?
That is correct.
To it, and now they want it changed. And then they signed the lease in that agreement 19 for a 10-year agreement, but they didn't occupy it, correct?
That's correct.
They haven't occupied it. And then we have another lease extension in 21 for 30 years?
Correct. So that went on consent agenda in May of 2019, approving in September of 21 on consent agenda for that First Amendment, extending it to May of 2049, which is 30 years from the original sublessee date.
So they had a lease for 10 years, they haven't occupied it, and then a few years later, they asked for a 30-year, an extension up to 30 years for this new lease, which they still haven't occupied, right? And now, and at that 2021 lease agreement, they didn't ask for us to pay for improvements. They kept everything the same.
Sure.
And now they're coming back and saying, I want $250,000 to make this ADA and all this other stuff.
And I've spoken with Amanda about that, the intention behind the sublease, the amendment to the sublease, the First Amendment. And Julie, it's one of the reasons why I toured the facility. At that time, they were anticipating a funding request of Penny for Pinellas 4 economic development funds. They intended to utilize portion of the first floor as an incubator space. They've since abandoned that idea, and as you know, they've acquired another facility, and we've recently funded that with ARPA funds. So in their conversations, though, with Pinellas County Economic Development, who manages the Penny 4 funds for that purpose, a period of 25 years would be required for capital expenditures. So that's why that ask came forward as it did, to extend the lease, and we opted to extend it to 30 years. Parks and Rec brought that item forward in September of 21.
So are they thinking they want to pursue penny funds now that they have a 30-year lease?
Recall that a visitor center would not be an eligible use under Penny 4 economic development, so that is not anticipated.
Okay. Do we have any of it, and do you know if they've asked for any other municipalities to contribute? Because,
I do not know.
okay.
I don't believe so, but I do not know.
I just think at that location, first of all, a visitor center is for the region. It benefits the entire region. If anything, I think they need to be asking multiple municipalities to help fund it. I don't think we should be the sole funders of that. And I really think, they need to ask for TDC funds first. I don't see pulling $250,000 out of our reserves for their operational, expenses.
These are not operational
Well, I mean,
expenses.
in order to make it ADA, can they open and operate without ADA compliance there?
I don't know. That would be something that perhaps Tara or others would be able to answer. I don't know the legal ramifications of that.
Yeah. To me, there's just too much, it's too much money put on the shoulders of Clearwater for this, something that benefits the entire region. And I think, when we sign lease agreements with people, they need to uphold their part of the lease agreement. So I have concerns about allocating that much money for this.
So if I could pitch in, first of all, the TDC will not fund individual centers like this because they'd have to do it all over the county. They don't do that. Secondly, my understanding is they're asking for this now because the building is not habitable. It's inhabitable, and that's the difference in what they're asking for the money for. Third, if we don't want to fund this, and let's go back to giving them the $200,000 a year that we took away from them a couple years ago. So pick your options. Go ahead.
So when I'm thinking about this, one of the things that actually attracted me was that this was run by Clearwater Chamber and not a regional entity, because I've always felt that everything flows south. No matter what they say is regional, a lot of it goes to St. Pete. So it's attractive to me to have Clearwater Chamber be the person or the entity that takes care of this, because at least we know that Clearwater needs are going to be taken care of and properly marketed, not just Visit St. Pete. Oh, and by the way, Clearwater. And that is, I've seen that from the arts to grants to funding, it's always flowing south. Second, I think of this as a Kickstarter, just like I did when I approved the purchase of that CRA property over the appraisal price, plus extra $100,000 to fix it. It's supporting an initiative that there's going to have a lot of return. The idea that Clearwater does not have anything in the mainland, to me, is a very big empty space that needs to be filled. And then when you attach it to the potential of connecting all the trails and making this into a robust center to not only promote the city but all the cultural events, I think it's something that's worthwhile. If we're going, because I don't think of this as giving $250. I think of it as an investment in our economy. That's how I justify it. And I think that there's going to be very clear return on investment on this.
Yeah, I agree with that. We've been talking about this for a while. I always thought it was a good location for Amplify because it's the gateway to Clearwater. And then with the addition of the connection point of the North Trail and the West Trail with the bridge, right, that area is going to be a very active area for people coming from Tampa as well as going over 60 and going both ways. So I think it's a good investment.
I appreciate Councilmember Beckman's deep dive into the questionings here. I have some of the same concerns. When was the last time any of us stopped at a visitor center? I think I was a kid.
All the time, and every place I go to. That's where I get all my information, and I get the feel for the
We do.
culture and the environment.
Yeah, before
And I meet the citizens.
Sanibel got hit by the hurricane, we had a house there and go by, and the place was full every time we drove by at the entrance.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
that's interesting. Okay. The one element of this I liked is the fact that we're improving the trailhead. And I think that's a worthwhile investment for the city. I'll just leave it at that then.
Okay.
I have some follow-up questions. So, how much does the city pay to be a member of Amplify?
$456
A year?
annually? Yes.
Okay. And, I wonder, I appreciate Councilmember Bunker's, question about how much do people really utilize a visitor center? And we all have our personal experience, but I'm wondering if there's some data on that as people, generally, if they're going to pay for a plane ticket and come to an area, I think a lot of people use the internet to look at what's going on and plan a trip. But, I'm not against a visitor center. I think that location there is okay. I think on the farthest eastern portion of our city is not the most ideal. I think we'd want it more, in the center of our mainland, not at that edge. And I think at that edge, it's even more apparent that the visitors, people who would stop there, would most likely be going north or south or, west into our city as well. But it's, again, it's this collective tourism that's going to benefit. It's not just cherry-picked information for Clearwater only. It's a regional chamber of commerce. They're called Amplify, not the Clearwater Chamber of Commerce. And I think they did that to be more broad-based. So I would, advocate for other municipalities to put in some money as well. The other question I have is, how much are we charging them to lease that building?
It is a zero-cost lease.
Zero-cost lease? Okay, so they're already getting a pretty sweet deal for the building, right? And now we're going to pay $250,000 to improve a building that we don't own or have control over, as far as our
But we
leasing
do
that
have,
has.
we do
Yeah,
have control over it for a 50-year period.
yeah, but they've got a 30-year lease on the bottom portion.
Correct. So we have a lease with the state that expires in 2067.
Yeah, I don't feel good about this until they ask for funding from multiple sources and not just Clearwater.
See, I will respectfully disagree with that. People coming across the causeway, majority of them are going to Clearwater Beach because that's where the resorts are. The TDC funds prove that out every month. We are the, whatever you want to call it, the 800-pound gorilla or whatever. And they're coming in here, they may be looking for things to do on days when they're not at the beach, and that's fine. But to ask other municipalities, they're not going to participate in something like this. This is for Clearwater and Clearwater Beach primarily. And again, if you don't want to give them the $250,000, I support giving them the $200,000 a year that we took away from them. So, I mean, I'd rather give them the $250,000 now to get this going. They're taking all the expenses. They're going to man the place with personnel. They're going to pay those costs, those fees to promote our destination and to bring tax money into Clearwater Beach and the city of Clearwater. To me, it's a no-brainer. And it just, I don't know why they're so vociferously objecting to this. That doesn't make any sense to me. But again, if you don't want to give this, then I'll support that we give them $200,000 a year starting this year.
Well, I mean, how many municipalities support their chambers of commerce with that significant amount of money every year?
How many chambers of commerce support our economic engine? Clearwater Beach is our cash cow. We're trying to bring other businesses in, and we've got a nice tech center coming, or technology group in downtown and other areas. That's what brings the cash register.
I agree. Right now, it does. And we've got a gorgeous beach, and we've got a gorgeous park, an amphitheater that are continuing to bring people in, and that's phenomenal. And I think we need to work to maintain that. I also think it's important to diversify our economy and not put all of our eggs in one basket of tourism. And so when money is limited, what can we do with $250,000? Or, as you said, $200,000 a year. Here's what I would think. Let's use that $200,000 a year and pay for, I'm going to call it a business attraction specialist, somebody in the economic development department or whatever, whose sole purpose is to attract, retain, court new businesses to Clearwater, aside from tourism, to help us diversify our economy. I think that's a wise investment of.
That's what the chamber does.
That's
They're all
what
businesses.
one member of my staff does, Phil Kirkpatrick.
I was
That's
gonna
his
say,
only
did
job.
you step in
I'm sure
here,
he'll be
please?
excited to get a raise to $200,000. So, quite honestly, that's his only role.
Okay. Any other discussion on this right now? All right, we'll talk about it Thursday. Human Resources 3.1, please.
Kaleidoscope Cultural Assessment Presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, city manager. We are here to finalize our Kaleidoscope assessment. This presentation is kind of the collective of the journey we started on April 1st, 2022. And so the information that Mrs. Georges, who is the COO of Kaleidoscope, is going to provide for us is kind of a collective of all the information that has been gathered thus far. I think,
Okay, you want to just advance?
yeah.
Okay. So
So quickly, this has really been our process, and this is the culmination of it, as Sherman has shared here. When we started in April 2022, we kicked everything off. We went through a very comprehensive process to really review everything that you have in place as it relates to your workforce, as it relates to your culture, and as it relates to your policies, practices, and procedures. We went through that process through the third quarter of last year, and then we spent the end of last year and the totality of this year really putting together the findings, sharing those findings, which we had briefed all of you on those, and then meeting with department leaders for every department in the city, make sure that they were aware of those findings overall and for their specific areas, help them develop action plans, and then the culmination of this really is into a strategic roadmap for the city to really integrate this work. We look at this work as really just being able to bring together everybody, make sure that you mirror the people in the community that you serve, and that you have really fair policies and practices so that people have a great work experience and residential experience in the city. So with that, everything that we do is really, has to really ladder up to your strategic plan. And so as we look at the latest strategic plan, there's a lot of elements that really get at this work. So you're really well underway, really well positioned to really maximize this. So kudos to all of you. And so as we further that, we said, okay, these were the 4 areas that emerged from the assessment. The first areas were just really making sure that you're really mirroring and representing the communities that you serve. So working on that diverse representation to attract, secure, and retain the best talent of all backgrounds in your workforce. And then making sure as you bring them in, you're considering those different groups as you diversify the levels of the organization. The second part was really just making sure that you have the right governance for the Office of Diversity and Equity Services, which is now the Office of Talent and Diversity. And again, a lot of work has already been done there with that governance. And then really making sure that they can serve as a liaison to all of your departments, to all of you, as you continue to work and move the city forward. And then these last 2 areas of findings, or if you go back real quick, really just get at making sure you're building the right culture. So there were some opportunities presented around your culture, people really making sure that they have a great experience when they're working here, that leaders are really equipped to play their role and lead all people, especially across lines of difference, building trust in the organization, and then making sure that you're getting real-time feedback from people about the things that really matter to them as they come to work every day so that you can retain that best workforce. So these were your findings. We had shared these quite a while back, and now we said, okay, what do we do with these findings? We want to put them really into what we call your strategic house. Go to the next slide. And this house is really kind of a culmination of everything. This is your house. It identifies your vision of success, which we shared with you a long time ago. That's your North Star for where you're headed. Your mission case for change, all the things that will do to help you continue to improve and grow as a city and as you employ all different kinds of people and serve all different kinds of people. And then the bottom of the house really just gets at your areas of focus around your workforce. That's your people, making sure that all people of all backgrounds can achieve their career goals and aspirations, and your culture, where you have an environment where all people are connected, empowered, and thriving. And underneath those, we've got some key objectives every year that you're going to be focused on, doing different things underneath them. Under your people, you're really going to continue to attract the best talent of all backgrounds, particularly in underrepresented populations within your local workforce. So you're going to be looking at that on a regular basis. You're also going to build leadership commitment and accountability to making sure that everybody can be successful, and then making sure you're thinking about this work in the right way when you bring in future talent and new talent. And then on your culture side, you're going to make sure that your communication really gets at everybody, to everybody in the way that they want to hear it and receive it. Making sure that leadership and staff really understand what it means to be an inclusive colleague and leader. And then really developing the abilities for employees to share their voice, give you their feedback so you know what matters, what's important to them, and you can put those things into practice. And then finally, making sure you've got the right infrastructure to be able to deliver on those priorities and goals. Underneath that, you're going to make sure that you communicate, you educate, and you hold people accountable. So this is your strategic house and your plan to go forward. And then the next area around this is now how do we make sure that this gets done and have a dashboard for the different things you want to look at. On the people side, you'll have targeted groups, and Sherman and his team will work with HR in those areas to make sure that it's fair, and again, you're really mirroring your community. You've got different elements of education completed for different areas of work so that leaders can be inclusive, colleagues can be inclusive, and then those department leaders can continue to build this into their cultures and into their teams. And on the culture side, you'll have inclusive culture favorability scores. You've already got a baseline from the work that was done. You've got education and participation and feedback. You've got a governance that's been established, and then you've got city action plans that have been completed. And I do want to go on the record here to say, while we're about almost 2 years into this work, a lot of work has already been done. You've made a lot of strides, and you put a lot of resources and energy and effort into this, and you've really come a long way already. So that's just a little bit about the areas that are going to be measured. And then when you think about education, this is a roadmap for the city as it needs to be able to develop and equip all your talent to create the right culture, to make sure that they're operating with equity in mind, and to make sure that everybody is really set up for success. And so you'll see this roadmap really kind of takes people to develop the right competency across their levels, and then in certain functional areas, helping everybody, again, be able to do that, which they do better every day, but be able to do it really well as they work across lines of difference. And then the last part of this, making sure you've got the right governance, which is part of your strategy. And so all of these areas are really around how does this work take hold. And we've got it inside executive and senior leadership. There's been a lot of work that's been done there. You've got a diversity leadership committee that's been in place. You all have been investing in for a long time. They're going to continue to be refreshed and guiding this strategically. You've got, ultimately creating some department inclusion ambassadors. You've got some employee resource groups. And then as time goes by down the road, as you take this work externally and working with the different communities, bringing them in to also be a liaison to all of you to give you the insights that are needed so you can do that effectively. And then at the center, of course, is the Office of Talent and Diversity. So that concludes this high-level strategic roadmap. There's a lot more behind this, but we wanted to manage time today. Any questions?
Any questions, comments? Yes.
And I apologize, I know we talked about it on our one-on-one, but I think it's noteworthy. I still can't help but think what the impact would be if the data was collected today versus the second quarter of 2022. We've had so many changes, from restructuring of departments, changes in department heads, as well as the top leadership. So I just can't help but wonder when I look at all this data, like, I wonder how much of it would change. And then I have one question on what do you call it, the house that you have. It says better reflect the communities we serve today. Is that a philosophical goal, or are we looking to align with the demographic composition?
Very much with the demographic composition. So taking a look at your community, your census, and from time to time, periodically ensuring that you are, and if you're not, putting in strategies in place that will help you do that.
And last but not least, I'm actually very happy that you focused on offering tools for people to be promoted from within, or I guess forward their career by actually having programs in place to help, because we've seen that we have a lot of talent within, and it's a great thing to improve and facilitate their upward trajectory. So thank you for that.
No problem, thank you. And you all have actually already started to put a lot of that in place through the HR department in creating those career ladders and job proficiency, all of those tools. So a lot of that work is already underway.
And so I want to say thank you guys for allowing us to be able to take part in this process, because I think to everybody's, achievement here, we were able to truly get a good sense of, our employee base. And I think that's going to be vital as we move forward, as far as how they feel, the culture within the city, as we move forward, definitely from some of the hiring practices that we have, and just understanding kind of where are some areas and where, our employees can things can improve a little bit, or things we're already doing tremendously.
Any other comments, questions? Anyone else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Good job. 3.2, please.
Approve the collective bargaining agreement as negotiated between the city and Communication Workers of America.
Good afternoon. Crystal Rouse, Interim HR Director. The collective bargaining agreement between the City of Clearwater and the Communication Workers America, Local 3179, expired on September 30th, 2023. The parties reached a tentative agreement. The agreement was ratified by the CWA bargaining agreement unit by a vote of 440 yes and 19 no. A summary of these changes are as follows. Article 3, rights of parties, deleted language that the city shall deduct dues. Article 7, personnel practices, changed several sections regarding personnel practices. Increased the percentage from 10 to 15% for the placement of a candidate above the established entry of the salary range based on candidates' job-related education, training, and experience. Changed provisions regarding appointments and promotions. Article 8, leaves of absence, added Juneteenth to the designated holidays list. Increased vacation accrual rates to those of SAMP employees. Increased vacation cap to 320 hours. Updated language for leaves of absences without pay. Added vacation buyback language. Article 9, wages and compensation. 2% increase to minimums and maximums of pay plan in the first year. 8% merit pay increase in the first year. Pay increases retroactive to October 1st, 2023. Wage reopener for years 2 and 3. Increase to longevity award. Increased meal money from $10 to $25. Increased standby rates Monday through Friday, 35 to 50. Saturday, Sunday, 40 to 70. Holidays, 45 to 80. Increased tuition reimbursement from $1,500 to $2,500. And Article 15, duration modification and termination, added termination clause. This item fits strategic items 5.1, attract and retain top quality personnel through the maintenance of a competitive compensation program, and 5.3, generate organizational success through collaborative engagement and inclusive decision-making to create shared valued outcomes. We'd like to thank the CWA employees and the Executive E-Board for all their hard work, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this item? Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, just to confirm that we were expecting this and we're not, so that we have money set aside, correct? It's not coming out of our reserves for this retroactive pay.
It shouldn't come out of the reserves. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, we're having a class and comp study come up, right?
Yep.
And so we're gonna present again, and then we're gonna ask, obviously, for an amendment for those.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
So, this has been a long time coming. I'm glad we finally got something resolved with the union, and something that I think we probably should have done a couple of years ago, but I'm glad we finally got on it, so, good.
Okay, anything else? If not, consent?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. 4.1 on Parks, please. Parks and Recreation.
Approve a proposal by construction manager At Risk Course Construction for the renovations and structural repairs at Baycare Ballpark.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members.
afternoon.
Art Cater, Parks and Recreation Director. The item before you today is an annual item for renovation for structural repairs at Baycare Park. The CIP budgets for the maintenance and upkeep of Baycare Ballpark were established in part with a reserve study done by WJA, Wanamaker Jensen Architects, in 2014 and 2015. The contract before you today will provide for the necessary structural repairs identified by Pannoni Architects during their annual structural inspections of the stadium, as well as the replacement of the sound system currently at the stadium. The current sound system is 20 years old and in need of replacement. Matter of fact, an acoustical engineer began investigating this over 4 years ago. However, we have delayed that until today. Replacement is needed to address several weaknesses in the system, including there's many dead spots around the stadium where you cannot hear at all. They will replace speakers that basically are high up on the infrastructure where we have some rusting going on. They need to have new speakers there. And also it provides enough power to actually generate and push the sound through. Right now, the current system really is not strong enough to really do that as it should. It will replace an analog system with a digital system, which in turn will enhance the overall quality of the sound and improve the fan experience. The new system will not interfere with any future expansion plans being proposed by the Phillies. The project will take 90 days to complete and will be completed prior to the spring training of 2024. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Questions or comments on this? Yes.
I can actually foresee somebody asking me this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it for them. Are we repairing, or any of these repairs, can they possibly be replaced should our Phillies negotiations be successful? So are we repairing anything that might be replaced later when they redo it?
I do not believe so. I think everything that we've done is, like I said, is the annual inspection. That first, all of the structural parts of it, those are gonna need to be done whatever we do in the future. The reason why I shared with you about the sound system, okay, was the fact that we did check with the Phillies. We have looked at what plans we do have, and that anything we put in now would not be lost due to the new renovations.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else on this? Anyone else? Okay. Consent?
Yes.
Thank you. Police Department, 5.1, please.
Amend Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Chapter 21, repealing Section 21.18 relating to prohibiting, soliciting, begging, or panhandling.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council, Eric Gandy, Clearwater Police Department. So this is more about the exercise of going through and cleaning up obsolete or unused ordinances. We went through this previously, and we're continuing to do so. Years ago, we stopped using this particular ordinance in favor of others that are applicable citywide rather than just specific geographic locations. And for that reason, we recommend repealing this ordinance. We have several others along with state statutes that allow us to issue uniform traffic citations for approaching vehicles on the road and things of that nature. As far as private property owners are concerned, they always can avail themselves of our services to have someone trespass from private property that's engaging in panhandling. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments on this item? Okay, thank you, sir. Library, 6.1, please.
Approve purchase orders to multiple vendors for the acquisition of library books and materials.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Bonnie Potters, Acquisitions Librarian. The Clearwater Public Library System is requesting authorization to purchase library books and materials utilizing competitive awarded piggyback and cooperative contracts. 2 piggyback contracts with the Commonwealth of Virginia through the Library of Virginia on behalf of the Mid-Atlantic Alliance, valid July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. We're requesting Baker and Taylor for $165,000 and Ingram Library Services for $155,000. The Clearwater Public Library System is part of the Pinellas Public Library Cooperative. Pursuant to that interlocal agreement, the Clearwater Public Library System provides funding to the Pinellas Public Library Cooperative in order for the cooperative to purchase materials and services. The Pinellas Public Library Cooperative is requesting $170,000. This agenda item falls under the city's strategic plan of high-performing government and community well-being. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions, comments, anything? Okay. Consent? Thank you.
Thank you.
7.1, please. Information technology.
Authorize a purchase order to Azteca Systems Holdings for computerized maintenance and management system.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. This is Dan Mayer, Information Technology. We have a brief PowerPoint before we discuss the next 2 items as it relates to asset management. So first of all, we want to define what is enterprise asset management, and it is a documented and systematic approach to managing physical infrastructure to maximize its life and anticipate resource needs for its operation and eventual replacement. These processes increase visibility of the resource demands, total cost of operations, prioritization of projects and expenditures, and greater awareness of the operating needs and risks during decision making. There are a lot of benefits that go along with that. As you know, we have a very high level of service in the city, and consistency in the management of our assets is critical for us to anticipate costs and balance the obligations we've created, optimize workloads and resource management within our departments, and elevate the level of customer service and accountability we have to the residents of Clearwater. Oops. We also want to make sure that we have conscious decision-making both at the dais and within the organization as it relates to cost of operations. We assume levels of risk in every decision we make when we change projects or we add projects, and we want to be fully knowledgeable of that. We would prefer to get out of a crisis management scenario where things break and when we have to, we have excellent staff and we do a very good job of responding when necessary, but we'd much more prefer a proactive preventative maintenance approach. There is state compliance and penalties, especially when you're talking about utilities, whether it be water and sewer or gas. We want to avoid those at all possible. And we want that informed risk management and project prioritization for the public's knowledge. As we look at really what we're trying to achieve, we've had asset management for quite a long time, but we've used it primarily as a work management tool. So reactive, we get requests, we know the work, we assign it, and then we do some documentation. Getting to a point where we're planned and have greater foreknowledge of the asset commitments and costs associated with their maintenance and replacement is where we'd like to be. Strategic, where we could do more predictive. Now, predictive will come in the future when we have greater monitors on physical infrastructure, the Internet of Things. We'll have different levels of information that come back. You could use a term like AI, but that is where it will go. And when you consider the breadth and importance of the infrastructure that we maintain, that's a very responsible path to take. As it relates to the strategic plan, all of the elements under high-performance government really relate to the use of this type of tool for all our utility operations and our larger departments such as Parks and Rec that have a great deal of assets out there. Community well-being and a sense of confidence on the part of our citizens that the elements that they rely on daily are being taken care of and are reliable. We want to reduce waste as well as it relates to community well-being, and then collaboration in providing high level of customer service to the public. A little bit of history. Clearwater has always been a leader within the county in terms of how it manages its assets. We were one of the first to convert most of our paper to digital. It started back in the 90s when we converted all our maps to CAD drawings and then GIS. And then in 2004, we purchased our first asset management tool called Synergen, and that was implemented in the utilities group. Over time, that was adopted by several other departments, including Clearwater Gas, Fleet Operations, Public Works, and Urban Forestry. The product was purchased twice. It is now owned by Oracle, so it's referred to as Oracle Work and Asset Management. Over the next couple of years, Oracle will be moving that product to the cloud, so it's going to cost us a considerable amount of money to keep up with that licensing and re-implement the product. We also pay for another product called GeoNexus, which provides us a mapping overlay. We have used maps in our public works and on our public services groups for quite a long time for reference for all our field workers. They're very map-oriented. We bought this so we could have a map overlay with OWAM, and when we consider that additionally, it makes the case more compelling to look at other products. And we did that with CityWorks. Because it's map-based and because it's more intuitive and because we've been monitoring that product for quite a number of years, we feel it has a lot of benefits. It is also the asset management tool used by Pinellas County, and we do have a tremendous amount of overlap infrastructurally in management of the right-of-ways with Pinellas County, and using the same tool set would give us a real strategic benefit. So we're proposing to make this conversion in two phases. So the first phase would include public utilities. We estimate that that will cost us approximately $1.6 to $1.7 million for the professional service to help us implement, and then recurring costs of $130 for the licensing of that product. It should take us 18 months if we kick it off at the end of this year, so by June of 2025, we would be operational with that group. We do also want to highlight that the commitment of personnel that are knowledgeable in how to manage these assets, how to cultivate, pull the data from these databases, report them to create a level of transparency, and to offer you the type of information you need to be strategic and be fully aware of the decisions we're making. So within public utilities, we anticipate 3 new positions. Now, would they be all new FTEs? Not necessarily. Rich is a pretty resourceful guy, and we think he, in one case, we already know he's reclassed one of those positions, but they may require FTEs if the departments deem they don't have the resources available, and that will be addressed on a department-by-department basis. The second phase will include the other 4 departments currently using OAM. Now, we think the cost for this will be a little bit less. One, Rich has far more assets in public utilities. Rich Gardner is the Director of Public Utilities. That's who I'm referring to. So we think that having the largest part of the project done first, the lessons learned from that, it will also create a template for a number of processes that will be addressed during that first phase that we won't have to redo in the second phase. So we anticipate another roughly $1.5 to $2 million for implementation, and then additional licensing costs. So fully implemented, we'd be at about $260,000 a year licensing. We're currently just under $200,000 with OAM, so it is not an overly significant increase in the licensing. That time frame would vary, but somewhere between 18 to 24 months to get all the rest of these departments up and running. And then we anticipate other positions in these departments. Some of the departments have existing positions that do administrative work in support of asset information. We think we'll be adding more in departments such as finance and budget to rectify our CIP lists, and building and maintenance, parks and rec would be 2, and then an additional employee in public works. And at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Rich Gardner, and he can go over some more specifics with regard to the utility section. Put that there.
Thanks, Dan. Rich Gardner, Director of Public Utilities. I want to talk a little bit about the implementation. Under the defined task, we'll create project teams, change management, and communication procedures. During discover phase, we will review the existing data, develop workflows, field requirements, and plans. Develop, we'll build a system, collect additional data, and test the system. When we deploy the system, we'll configure devices like tablets, cell phones, and desktops, and train users and go live. Once we're live, we'll support the system day to day, address technical issues, revise and update the system. Here's an expanded look at the tasks, including training, dashboards, and software updates. Keys to implementation is senior management support from the city manager through the department directors. Change management and communication will be a big part of the implementation, and planning will be upfront with course corrections as we go along. Key deliverables include better and more efficient maintenance of infrastructure, increased understanding of our infrastructure and equipment, greater accountability for operations and maintenance, and more informed CIP planning and workplace prioritization. We'll start with public utilities, water, wastewater, and reclaimed assets. Future phases will include other operational departments such as public works, building and maintenance, parks and rec, and gas. For an idea of the current workload in fiscal 23, we've had 22,550 work orders in OWAM alone. Add to that 18,000 tickets in UMS and 4,500 tickets through public stuff. These will all be converted to CityWorks. Why CityWorks? Pinellas County is already using CityWorks, which allows opportunities for collaboration. The software has the ability to work with our existing GIS system. It's a proven product and market leader. CityWorks is much more user-friendly than our current system, OWIN. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any
Dan can have the hard questions. I'll
Any
take-
questions or comments on these two items, right, 7.1 and 7.2? That's correct? Yes, ma'am.
You'll share that PowerPoint with us? I don't think it was
It
attached.
was an attachment on the first item
Okay.
for the software.
And then I think if it's part of the second one, my question was, I understand the county has moved to this type of system, and, are we gonna use the same one? So,
It's the same one the county uses.
wasn't it called, like, something with my computer thing just froze up a little bit, an N? Or maybe that's another agenda item down, but,
The third one is the learning management system
Okay.
for human resources.
Okay,
The
okay.
first two items are
Okay.
the software and then
oh,
the
good.
professional
I think
services.
asset management software is,
The county name of C-Click Fix, is that what you're referring to?
no, I mean, I'll have to pull it up as we come along.
Novarant is the.
Yeah,
learning
that
ma-
one.
Yeah, that's the learning management. That's the next agenda.
That's the next one, okay.
And just on that, we have had several meetings with the county in terms of viewing their systems. I know that Dan put together a core team of who we believe are going to be the power users of this and brought them over to the county so that they could see the system and things like that. So, I mean, we've really utilized looking at what they've done over there and shown it to our staff. So they've done a great job with that.
It's always good to learn from who's ever using it right now. Fantastic. I think it's a great use of funding and,
Anything else? So as you said, Mr. Mayor, the department's always kind of been ahead of the curve. I remember the scare in '99, going into what they call Y2K or whatever it was called. You guys did a heck of a job then. That was big, a heavy lift for everyone. So, all right, consent on these two items?
Yep.
All right, thank you very much. 7.3, please.
Approve an agreement with Novarant for a learning management system application.
Mayor, council, the learning management system will be used by HR to document all both required and developmental training for citywide staff. We will be building integration with our employee evaluation system so that we can add training needs or development needs directly to their objectives on an annual basis. It also includes access to LinkedIn Learning, which is a curriculum source, and we can pick tens of thousands of courses through LinkedIn Learning to make available to our staff, including certified. There are a number of state programs that have certified classes in the LinkedIn environment. So Donna Hemberger, who's the project manager on that, is here. If you have questions specifically to HR, or if you have any questions on the software, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
so I asked, you said the county is using this, Novarant? Oh,
I
is
don't-
any other municipality in our area using it?
No.
Okay, and is the cost determined by how many employees we believe will be utilizing the service?
Yes,
Okay, and this will cover required job training as well as optional trainings?
yes. So there's over 100,000 courses in the LinkedIn Learning. We're also receiving 200 courses through Novarant, so courses that we'll have to vet, plan to use across committee, across all city departments to vet these courses before we pull them in and assign them to users. But yes, so users can self-select courses that they want to take, or they can be assigned by their managers.
This is for like certification credits and things like that?
Yes.
For
And
any skill
then-
development. You can add courses, so if you develop your own course for any particular topic or specific to our jurisdiction, we can add that as a course offering.
And employees can access it from home as well as on the job?
Yes, it's in the cloud environment, yes.
I just want to piggyback off of what they said, and so it won't replace all of our training by any means whatsoever, because we have some that are very specialized in the department. So we will still have additional training softwares and, programs that we will utilize throughout the organization, but in terms of development, this would be our main source.
A lot of soft skill training that we haven't had access to will be provided through LinkedIn Learning.
Great. What's the closest municipality that's using it? Is there anyone in Florida that's using it?
I don't
Don't know?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We can get that information.
Just wondered if, people around here had experience.
Any other questions or comments? Consent? You?
Thank you very
Public
much.
Utilities, 8.1, please.
Approve an increase to Pinellas County for the joint project agreement between Pinellas County and the city for the reclaimed water pipe repair on Old Coachman Road.
Good afternoon, Rich Gardner, Public Utilities. The purpose of this project is to relocate an existing 16-inch reclaimed water main that runs along the west side of the existing bridge on Old Coachman. The project is part of a joint project agreement, JPA, with Pinellas County. The county intends to replace the bridge at the Old Coachman Road over Alligator Creek near Baycare Park. On September 18th, 2023, the city received the lowest bid from the county at $594,480.48 and $87,897.90.97 difference from the $506,583 that was previously approved by council on December 1st of 2022. The project is estimated to be complete within 240 calendar days from the notice to proceed issued by Pinellas County. I'm asking for your approval and happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions or comments? Anyone? Consent? Thank you. 8.2, please.
Authorize purchase order to Advanced Environmental Laboratories and Pace Analytical Services in a cumulative annual not to exceed amount of $700,000 for laboratory services.
Found before you today is for the award of a contract for laboratory services for water and wastewater systems. The laboratories analyze our water and wastewater for process control and compliance parameters. There were 3 respondents to the request for bids, and we're recommending award to Advanced Environmental Laboratories for wastewater and Pace Analytical Services for water in the amount to cumulative amount not to exceed $700,000. This will be a 1-year contract starting November 3rd with an option for 3 one-year renewals. I'm asking for your approval to award, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on this item? Consent? Thank you. Solid Waste, 9.1, please.
Authorize purchase orders to multiple vendors for the purchase of vehicle parts for heavy and light-duty city vehicles.
Good afternoon, Perry Conzen, Fleet Manager. Fleet Division is requesting authorization to purchase vehicle parts from various vendors for heavy and light-duty city vehicles and equipment. The vendors are listed below. Additional vendors, as needed, is also requested following the proper procurement process. Purchases will be obtained through various methods to include single-source, micro-purchases, small-dollar purchases, and piggyback contracts. The list of vendors with their procurement methods is attached. Any questions?
Any questions on this item? Consent?
Yes.
9.2, please.
Approve purchase order to Communications International for the maintenance and repair of citywide two-way radio communication system.
Good afternoon, Peter Barneau, Assistant Director of General Services. The item before you is a request to utilize Communications International for the maintenance and repair of citywide two-way radio communication systems and equipment. This is a renewal to the existing annual maintenance agreement and authorizes Communications International to provide PM repair and replacement of all city radios and terminals. I'll take any questions.
Any questions on this item? Consent? Thank you. 10.1, please. I am recusing myself on 10.1 because my son's firm represents the applicant.
Determine that 2 parcels of real property owned by the city at 110 North McMullen Booth Road are uneconomic remainders of land as defined by the city charter. Approve the sale for less than fair market value to the adjoining landowner and authorize appropriate officials to execute same.
Thank you, Ms. Call. Good afternoon, council members. Robert Kasmer, Public Works Engineering, Real Estate Coordinator. The item before you today is a revisit for the disposition of 2 uneconomical right-of-way parcels to the adjoining landowner. These uneconomical parcels, due to their limiting size, landlocked location, ongoing insurance liability, and tremendous cost to develop, should be considered an unnecessary monthly and annual burden to the city. All current utilities shall be deed reserved with release upon approval. City staff has reviewed and I recommend this approval. Questions, please?
Questions, comments?
I just had one question.
Yes.
Was it 2 parcels the first time it came around?
It was,
Okay.
yes.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. 11.1, please, City Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reappoint Meg Taylor to the Nuisance Abatement Board with a term to expire September 1, 2027. Council members, Ms. Taylor's appointment has expired, and she is willing and able to serve on the board once again.
Any comments? Yes.
This board only meets as necessary, right? And there's no problems with attendance or anything?
Not with Ms. Taylor.
Okay, all good.
Consent?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. 11.2, please.
Appoint Melinda Bacon to the Sister Cities Advisory Board as a Clearwater Arts Alliance representative with a term to expire October 31, 2027. Council members, Ms. Sally Park held this appointment before she passed away, and Ms. Bacon has submitted an application as the Clearwater Arts Alliance representative.
Any questions? Consent?
Yep.
Thank you. 11.3, please.
Reappoint Charles Engel to the Municipal Code Enforcement Board with a term to expire October 31, 2026. Council members, he was serving an unexpired term through the end of this month, and he is willing and able to fill the position again. And speaking with the board liaison, no issues with attendance.
Questions? Consent? Thank you. City Attorney, 12.1, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. So this item is for an extension of due diligence with Gotham. As the council knows, we did receive the final report from HR&A a couple weeks ago. Wanted to make sure the council has opportunity to digest that. It's very dense. There's a lot to unpack there, and even more information will be arriving since, as the council knows, we have ordered updated appraisals as well. So with the finalization of that report, that gives us a good launching point to discuss with Gotham and see if there's an opportunity to make the numbers work for them as well as for the council. If there is, great. If there's not, there's not. And we're going to see what happens. So the proposal here for both parties is to extend due diligence through the end of February. That, I think, has been a good self-imposed deadline for both the buyers and us. It is important, I think, that we get it done while this council is here without having new council members potentially come on, because it would not be fair to them to have to get up to speed on something that they have not had any familiarity with at all. And so we have agreed, I think, between the buyers and the city staff that we have seen a roadmap, I guess I would say, over the next couple months to bring this to a final resolution with the council one way or the other. And of course, as the council knows, I've been getting lots of feedback from you guys individually throughout the process, and those conversations, I think, have been positive. On Thursday, I believe we are setting up a next meeting with the buyers, and with that conclusion of the HR&A report combined with the data that we're getting from the updated appraisers, I think will give us a very, very clear picture as to where the city stands and whether there's an opportunity there from the council's point of view. So,
Any questions or comments on this item?
Yes.
Yes.
So when do you think the appraisal will be ready?
So we have been having good verbal conversations with them. Due to Florida's public records issues, we've had to tell them to let us know verbally what they are before they actually send us anything. It's a somewhat complex assignment for them because we've given them some very specific directives in how to appraise. So for example, we all know that the highest and best use of that property is condos. But at the same time, we also know that the council has set an objective to have residents living downtown, not condos. And so an appraisal for condos is not meaningful or helpful because that's not really the project that the council wants there. And so we have given them some pretty precise direction as to what this revised project would look like, and we've told them to operate on those assumptions specifically. So with that very specific directive in mind, we, on the city staff side, are helping to give meaningful direction to the appraisers so that you don't get data back that is not helpful or not meaningful or is not applicable to the project or is just an apples to oranges comparison. I wanted to make sure the council gets meaningful data out of this and that the public also gets meaningful data. So that's been the objective. So we feel very good about it. We've had a couple conversations with the appraisers, and I feel like that's probably going to come in next couple weeks. It should not be longer than that, because
Okay.
based on my verbal with them, I mean, it seems like it's coming in for a landing, but I think they have wanted to follow up with us because we've given them such precise instruction. They want to make sure they don't mess it up, because they're not accustomed to evaluating property in the context of a very specific project like this. Normally they're given more carte blanche to say, okay, the appraiser will figure out what's going to go there, and this is a situation where we're telling them this is what will go there, and if this project were to go there, what would a buyer be willing to pay? And so that's a very different assignment that we have given them. So I think both appraisers are being very careful in how they approach it to make sure that we get some very accurate and meaningful data. So I'm very optimistic about it. I think that between the HR&A report that the council has already gotten, combined with the cross-reference of data that you're going to get from the appraisers, the council is going to have a lot of very good and meaty data to digest off of this, and that'll help the council make some business decisions.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments? What's your pleasure on this? Consent?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. 12.2, 3, and 4, I again recuse myself because my son's firm represents this applicant. 12.2, please.
Mayor, 12.2 through 12.4 are second readings, but of course happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay.
We have second readings all the way through
Yeah.
Yeah.
12.12.
12.12, any questions on any of the other second readings? No? Okay. City manager verbal reports?
Thanks, sir.
City attorney verbal reports?
Nothing at this time.
Council discussion item, Councilmember Teixeira.
Yeah, first I want to apologize for not bringing this up earlier. I missed the ball on that one. But I do want to give a council the opportunity to think of perhaps changing the agenda a little bit to once a month in July, August, and November and December. Have gone through it once already. I found it was so challenging to coordinate everyone's schedules on those 4 specific months, between the vacations during the summer with the staff and then the incredible intense schedule of November and December. I was wondering if everybody's okay with just having it once a month during those months, with that full understanding that it is going to be a long meeting. But I think to negotiate through everyone's schedules, I think this would facilitate that.
What's the date, summer dates?
It would be July and August,
Okay.
and then November and December.
I'll leave it up to you guys because I'm not going to be here. So whatever you four think.
I'd like to find out, how the staff feels about it, whether they can accomplish everything that they need.
Good point.
I agree. I mean, I don't have any context to think about.
I actually spoke with the city manager before approaching this subject, because I wanted to make sure that it would be perceived in a positive light and would be something that they would be interested in. From what my understanding is, it would be, because it is quite challenging in those months to have the staff, I guess, it would be challenging those months. It's not something that I have not spoken to various staff members, including the city manager, about this. It's actually to facilitate for them.
Well, those are months, July and August, especially when we're working or discussing things about the budget.
But usually that's an added meeting, correct? Right? So in the past, it's been 2-3 meetings, and so when you,
July is already a once a month, so you only meet once in July,
Right.
just for the record.
right,
So it won't, so now you're talking about August, November, and December to eliminate a meeting, not July? How many times do we meet in November and December right now? Twice?
Twice.
In December too, yeah?
And I think I remember correctly that back in the day, we only met once in December.
It depends on when it falls. If it falls during the week of the holiday, then no, we don't meet that week, but
Ms.
I'm
Paria, what are
fine
your
with it.
thoughts?
I'm fine with this. I mean, we're already meeting once in July anyway, And I know it's, this time of year, it gets kind of hectic in December, so.
So you meet once in July and once in January per council rule. So that right now, just to make it clear, that's what, right now, that's when you meet. Once a month in according to your rules, once a month in January, once a month in July. And so depending on when the holiday falls in December, you either move it around, but.
What are your thoughts?
So we have discussed this among staff. It would take planning, which is why we're talking about this now for next year. It's not something we would want to implement this year. The schedule's already set for this year. So, staff would absolutely, in terms of how they're planning out when things need to be brought forward, would need sufficient notice to be able to do that. I can certainly check with the department heads as well to see if there's anything that we've missed and have that for Thursday night for the official vote. But in preliminary conversations, nothing came up.
Yeah, and just remember that council's already approved the schedule for next year, so we would have to amend that. So it takes, just from my perspective, it's hard to try to find those, if everybody knows that this is the only, that's fine. But I think one of the issues that you run into is then trying to schedule special meetings and everybody's already out on vacation or out of town, whatever the case may be.
But that's the case now. I mean,
And
this
that's
year, how
why-
many
it's-
special
And
vacations?
that's, right now, that's the issue, is that because people leave when there's a scheduled meeting, then we have to scramble to schedule a special meeting. So from my perspective, it's hard to get 5 calendars on board, as long as everybody knows and nobody leaves during those times. That's been the issue, is that people leave when the meeting has already been set.
Sounds to me like you want to discuss this a little bit more, look into it. Is that my correct reading or not?
Well, I don't see a rush right now. I'd like to understand, I'd like to spend a little bit more time. It's not gonna be in effect this November or December. So, Rose, you're saying normally we have one meeting in January, but now we have a housing study update meeting in January, as well as we're probably going to start with a strategic plan meeting in January as a
Sorry,
normal course of action.
Both of those are already on the schedule.
Special
I know,
meetings,
but
yeah.
that's kind of, I would bet that hopefully going forward, each January, there's a strategic plan meeting for the city. So that's 2 meetings that the council would be involved in, right?
Well, it would be a special meeting, but just for strategic planning,
Right,
but there's only
right.
one council meeting.
Do you anticipate the entire staff being here during a strategic planning meeting?
I mean, that would be the
Required.
request, but, if there's a conflict on their calendars, then they would just be responsible to making sure there'd be somebody else that could attend, of which I'm confident they would have somebody else available to attend on their behalf if the department head could not be here.
So I had responded when those special January meetings were sent out that I think it would be prudent to wait till the new council was seated. And I know Council Member Albritton agreed with me. You're going to have 3 seats open, and, 2 people that are here that hope to get reelected or elected, and then somebody new coming in. And I don't see that it's that prudent to show it to me at that point. I'll be here if you tell me we have to do it, but I just think it's wise to push that stuff till you get the new people seated, because they're gonna need it anyway. But it's up to you guys.
I think staff needs direction far earlier than the beginning of April, or when somebody's gonna be, taking a position. We're talking about the strategic plan in January, we're starting to set budget priorities, and those discussions, they can't wait until April or May, whenever somebody's brought up to speed. I think this council will help set those strategic plan priorities. The staff will do their work, and then if somebody new comes on, then they should work to respect, the decisions of the council that set those strategic goals in January.
That's fine, whatever you want. Just saying, what about the housing study?
I don't think the housing study can wait for anything. We're in a crisis. We need that information. I think to move forward. Largo did their housing study, and they have, this process of educating the public about it, having different forums and feedbacks, and all that takes time. That housing study is just gonna be data, right, that we're gonna look at.
Okay, whatever your
Is that
pleasure.
Well, I've spoken to several it was actually, I was spoken to several staff that was in support of that. However, I didn't have a big number, so perhaps if you can feel them out a bit more. I mean, if it's something that they want, we can pursue it, and if it's not, then we can just, I thought it would be easier for everyone involved. But it's not something that I insist on.
Sure. So like I said, we have discussed it, but we have, after every council work session, we have a set meeting where all the department heads will be in the same room. So I can certainly bring this up tomorrow and bring, for a formal count, and bring that information back to the council prior to Thursday. I can email, with the results of that conversation, so you will have that in advance of Thursday.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just briefly, Mayor. So, as the clerk pointed out, our current council rules prescribe the timing of when the council gets together. There's nothing wrong with changing that. The rule is completely in control of council, but just whenever the decision is made, we, both of us, need to make sure we know what that decision is, because I will need to update the council rules to reflect whatever it is that you guys would like to do as far as the timing. So no problem, but that is done by resolution, and so just let me know once there's, consensus, and we'll keep in touch, and just that way we can bring it forward as an actual council rule amendment.
Okay, sounds good. All right, any new business? Yes, ma'am.
So on October 17th, the county signed unanimously a document taking a stand against the terrorist attack on the people of Israel. And then I understand there's going to be another new session, special session from the state. And so I was wondering if our city council would like to join in that effort or not.
What's your pleasure?
Resolution.
I'm fine with it.
I'd like to see the language.
There's, I've already seen some from I've seen the county specifically, and I've actually sent it to Mr. Margolis just for his information. We can share it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right, anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I have new business, so I think we need to have a discussion as soon as possible about the proposed PSTA plans, and give some direction from the dais. So I know I've met with PSTA leadership, and Councilmember Albert, and you have, and I don't know if you three have or not yet. But if
In
you,
the books, but not yet.
yeah, I think we need to have a discussion up here to talk about the concerns of staff, the concerns of PSTA, and where we see that going forward or not. So I'd like, do you have a meeting scheduled? When is it? Is it like this week or?
Me?
Yeah.
Probably early next week.
Oh, so we could put it on the next council work session, you
Let me
think?
just confirm. I only look 2 days ahead, so I don't get all overwhelmed.
Yeah, I'm not sure when my meeting is, because I was gonna get briefed by staff first. So it might
November
still be
6th.
good. And I'm out of pocket a lot the next couple weeks. I mean, I'm not gonna miss any meetings, but I'm not gonna be in town a lot. So I will have to see.
Yeah, and I think staff will be ready. I don't want to speak on behalf, but we were going to do one-on-ones with council on this topic first, once they were completed and had the study back from the consultant. So I believe we are ready to get those scheduled. So we'll get those one-on-ones scheduled. I think that should occur prior to. So as long as calendars allow for that to happen, then I think, I certainly don't have a problem with getting that on the agenda, but I would like those one-on-ones to occur first. Is that?
I think it's important to talk about. Like
Yes, I think
Councilman Beckman said.
right now we've contemplated one-on-ones with you to kind of show where we are. I've talked to Gina, who met with PSTA late last week, and with a focus on trying to glean from them what's the bottom line on what they think they can do, so we can kind of start to wrap this conversation up. It's been a long time. And in doing so, we were going to plan then to follow up, be prepared for a public discussion with PSTA as well, probably in the November, December timeframe right in there. We'd really like to have this discussion publicly before carrying it into 2024, frankly.
Yeah.
And so, depending upon your comfort level, that was kind of how I talked to Jen and staff about approaching this to, kind of prepare you, have that individual discussion first, and then prepare for a public discussion with PSTA. So if that comports with what you would like to, if that works for you.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Everyone else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, and my one-on-one is Thursday afternoon, so I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Okay. Any other new business?
Then I also have, I'm the representative, so I'm the vice president of first vice president of the Suncoast League of Cities, and we have a set of legislative priorities that we agree on as this multiple municipality organization for this legislative session. And we're finalizing those, and if you had any that you think we should consider as the Suncoast League, you could share them with me, but I know I spoke with Rose this morning. We're going to be having our own Clearwater legislative priorities that we'll discuss before January, right?
Next meeting.
Oh, that's right, you said the next meeting.
It's always good when they are consistent with each other as close as possible.
And then I'll give an update on my regional AHAC meeting information at the next work session, too.
Sounds good. Any other new business? Okay. Good meeting. We had a great concert Saturday night, and I didn't get booed off the stage in the one song, so I survived, but it was fun. Anyway, we'll see y'all Thursday night.
Did you see my picture with John? Did you see my picture with John?